Hey, welcome back to JG3 Reviews. Today we're going to look at the Kaweco Liliput, particularly the Collection for 2022, which is a green aluminum pen. When I look for a pocket pen, there are certain things that have to be there because I love a good pocket pen, but I only love a good pocket pen. It needs to be reliable, it needs to be convenient, it needs to have good value, it needs to be reliable, it needs to be convenient, and it needs to be durable, and it needs to be convenient. This pen is some of those things, but is this pen actually all those things? On the surface, the answer is yes, but the devil is in the details. Let's flip the camera and see how this pen does or doesn't match my list. If you opt to buy the collection version of the Kaweco Liliput, then you get this matching green for 2022 sleeve for your box. Ain't that just amazing? And then you get what is actually a pretty cool tin box. I like that. And it's a good secondary collectible just all in itself with the logo and everything from Kaweco in 3 there. Then you open it up and like a jack-in-the-box, you get the warranty card. It also has some care and use and history, just a little bit of history of the Kaweco company. And then cool Kaweco sticker. A lot of you like the stickers. That way, you know, your laptop can look like you're in fountain pen NASCAR. And then you have the pen in a plastic sleeve, and it did come with one blue Kaweco ink cartridge, which obviously I haven't used yet. I do have ink in this pen though. So you take that out of the old sleeve, and what you have is a very tiny fountain pen. As far as I know, the smallest production fountain pen made today. We'll do some size comparisons to others here in just a second. This is a small pen, and because this version of it is aluminum, it is extremely light. It doesn't feel like you're holding anything that could possibly be used to write with. It just feels that incredibly light. Now you can get this pen in other materials such as brass, and that's going to be heavier, so you've got options out there, but this is the aluminum pen and very, very light. Now let's run down this pen's design top to bottom. First, you have that traditional Kaweco logo painted on top of the cap. Then you have Kaweco Collection, so that you know this is that special edition pen, if you didn't know by the green, painted at the top of the cap as well. And then not much else. You notice there are threads because you do write with this pen posted, and that is a screw-on posting, so there is that. Otherwise, that, ladies and gentlemen, is the design of the pen. Then we unscrew the cap, and let's count these. 1, 2, 3, just over 3, basically 3 1/4. So 3 1/4 turns to get the cap off. Now, we're going to talk about that here in just a minute. And then to put the cap on, it's going to be the same 3 1/4 turns. Then you have actually a pen that lengthwise is just fine. There's no issue there for me at all. Some of you may still find that a little bit short, but I find the length part of its ergonomic factors to be just fine. It's very balanced. It's so light it can hardly be out of balance. So that part is all well and good. When you get into the grip section, that's where for some it might fall off their list. This is a narrow diameter pen, so know that. Look at the dimensions and make sure that it's going to be something you're comfortable writing with. About like a number 2 pencil is, I would say, is about what that is in diameter. But of course, it feels differently because of the curve in the grip from a pencil. So just be aware of that. Threads, of course, are dull, so that's not an issue at all. You are, because it is that smaller Kaweco nib, you are going to be fairly close to the page if that's something that you need to consider as well. The main purpose of this pen is, of course, convenience when it comes to carry. It is a light pen. It's a pretty durable pen, especially depending on which material you get. If you get the brass, it is extremely durable. Be aware, though, of the diameter, because that, for some, that's going to be either comfortable or uncomfortable. Your mileage will vary. The nib is a steel nib. Mine came in medium, and it has the traditional scrolling and the Kaweco logo there and a nice big M so that you will not forget just what size nib you are writing with. I guess that could be an issue. And then you have the plastic feed, which upside down, but it does have the Kaweco logo as well. Right, and when we open up the pen, we find that there is room for one international short cartridge, and that is it. You're not going to use converters. You're not going to use any of that. It is a cartridge-only pen. Even if you have one of these mini converters, you might look at that and think, oh, surely that will fit. It will not fit. If you do put this in here, putting the barrel back on will push the plunger. I checked it empty just out of curiosity. I had already seen where they weren't compatible. It will push it all the way down to about there, and that's all you will have left, which makes this, already these converters hold very little ink even compared to an international short, and this would make it just pointless. As next in the dictionary, next to pointless would be a picture of you trying to use this to carry ink in your Kaweco Liliput. It just does not work. So there is that. It is a cartridge pen. Now, that's not a problem. If you've got a syringe especially, then you can put whatever ink you want in an expended cartridge and you're golden. What I have in here today is a Diamine cartridge, and it comes from this set of the Diamine fountain pen cartridges. This is the Regal set, which includes Royal Blue, Monaco Red, which I don't think I've even used that yet, Imperial Blue, Imperial Purple, and Emerald. It's convenient anyway, and you can keep extra cartridges in your backpack or whatever, and it's still a very, very convenient pen. But how does it compare in size to other everyday carry pocket pens? Okay, so there you have the Kaweco Liliput, and here we have the next choice in the Kaweco line, a very well-worn Ice Sport. Both of these pens, by the way, can, at additional cost, be fitted with a removable clip should you want such a thing. The Liliput is so small, I didn't bother, but a lot of people do. I do have one for my Sport. Then another pen, very similar in size, but not a fountain pen. Is that even allowed? Is the Fisher Space Pen Bullet, and very close in size, actually just slightly smaller, although quite a bit heavier, and in my opinion, nowhere near the good writer, but very versatile. That's the pen that I carry in my jeans fifth pocket a lot of the time when I'm going to be doing things that fountain pen just isn't that friendly toward. Like if I'm out hunting, this is a hunting pen for me. You got to fill out, or fishing, you got to fill out your game tag, and that requires a ballpoint pen. So that exists. Then we have shorter but not smaller. We have the Wankai Mini, and this pen is kind of interesting because it's a great everyday carry pen, really a pretty cool resin, but because of that resin, I don't want to get it scratched up, so I don't actually carry it that often. I will carry it in, say, my laptop bag, and it actually is a great writing pen, so I don't mind having it, but I don't really want to like destroy the finish on that pen, so I don't use it that often. But it depends on how you carry your pens, whether or not that's going to apply to you. Then another pen that I like to carry, does have the advantage of a built-in clip compared to some of these others, is the Moonman, when I bought it, Majan Now 80 Mini, and that, of course, is a Parker 45 cloned pen, but shortened, a little runt of the Parker 45 clone family. And actually, mine's proven to be a pretty good pen, and the nibs and feeds are interchangeable with an actual Parker. You can do with that, maybe make a cool Franken pen out of that if you'd like to, but I like it. The only thing about this pen where the Liliput definitely has an advantage is, of course, this is better materials than this pen and craftsmanship, but also this uses international short cartridges, as does the Ice Sport, but this uses a proprietary Parker cartridge, a proprietary Parker short cartridge, and as you know, not as easy to source for most people. Then you have the Delight brass fountain pen. This, of course, is a very heavy pen. It is very durable, and mine has been extremely reliable, and it's a good writer with a Minifude nib. So I do carry this pen a lot. This is often what I carry. And then the next pen that I'm going to review, the Gravitas brass pocket pen, and I really am liking this pen. Very well made, not a surprise, that's the reputation. Very well made, some great features to this pen, and I'm just going to go ahead and tell you this right up front. If I'm picking between these two pens, I'm probably going to go with this. Nowhere near as light. This is a solid, weighty pen, but it has things about it that I'll get into in that review that really make me lean toward that pen. But the Liliput has its place. Okay, one characteristic that all these pens have in common is that when they are posted, they are much more like a normal sized pen, some more so than others. The Liliput is actually toward the smaller end of this particular group of pens, but as I said, lengthwise, I think it's just fine. A little bit shorter than the Bullet Space Pen, a little bit shorter, just maybe a centimeter or less shorter than the Ice Sport with, you will notice, its mismatched nib unit. That's a long story I won't get into today. And then the Moonman 80 being close to it. But all of these pens, to me, write well when posted. Just very different feel to each of them. Speaking of which, what is it like to write with? Bad about those closed E's. This is, again, a medium nib, steel of course, and this is Diamine Emerald. I find this to be, by the way, a good smooth nib. Now, I've had a Kaweco or two nibs they were sports, only on sports, where the nibs sometimes needed just a little bit of tuning out of the box. This is not one of them. This writes really well, and I should say that only happened to me pens that I bought years ago. None of my recent Kawecos have needed anything. That's probably important to point out there. There could have been a change, improvement. Plenty of ink, I think, for this nib. So, I don't know, I think it writes pretty well. That section is just a little bit narrow for me. It's not uncomfortable, just not optimal. But again, I find that it writes quite well. Let's do my speed test. Okay, I don't see anything. I didn't feel it lift off the paper. Just a slight, that might have been a roll or something, but it keeps up just fine. How about this week we do a dad joke? Okay, now let's do some pros and cons. First on the pros, I would say is just the design overall. I like the look of the pen. I like the color of this particular collection version of the pen, and it's just a sharp little everyday carry pen. Number two is weight. I love that it's such a light pen. I can put this in a jeans fifth pocket and forget that it's even there until I need it. I have too much stuff in my pockets. Keys to all the family's cars and office keys and keys to closets at the church building and all this kind of stuff. It's too much. Pocket knife and all of that, it all adds up, and then, you lose a pocket to your cell phone unless you want to scratch screens. So there is that modern problem too. So anything that lightens that load, I like. Third is what might seem like a non-issue, but is not. It is that it takes international shorts. For me, where I live and what's available, unless I want to order it online, international shorts are the cartridges that I can find even at a craft store here in our small town. So that convenience factor is really helpful, and the fact that it's seconds to re-ink the pen is maybe an advantage that some of us, that are really into the fountain pen hobby, we start to, really get into different inks, and we want converters always and that sort of a thing. I'm numbered among those, as you know. But the truth is, cartridges are handy and they're convenient, and international shorts, at least where I am in my context, the most convenient. So the fact that it's not proprietary, like that Moonman 80 Mini or something like that, that's a win. Next is that the one I got came with a great nib in medium. It writes really well. It's written well on all different kinds of paper. It's a good nib. And of course, that's going to make or break the pen. Now, let's talk about a couple of cons. First is one that some of you might already be thinking about. It's an expensive pen for its size, and it's not made out of any exotic material. It's just aluminum. I mean, this could have been a Coke can at some point in the past. So that is something to consider. Value is going to be something that is entirely up to you, but there are lots of options out there at the same price or considerably less. One of those, for example, I mentioned that Gravitas brass pen. Well, before shipping, and that's where you might be able to get an advantage out of the Liliput, but before shipping, very close to the same price. But, you're getting a lot more out of that other pen. Now, you're also getting a lot more in that other pen. If you're looking for light, that ain't it. But certainly, most of the other issues with convenience it has, durability, that other pen's going to be around when this one has melted. So, there is something to that. But price, that's going to be up to you, but it's not a cheap pen. The next is turns to open. And, I kind of made a mess of that T, and I think it's because my hand tensed up thinking about this one. Not really, it's not that big a deal. But just be aware that if you're looking for a pen that is going to be a constant in and out of your pocket, then basically 6.5 turns by the time you've taken it off and then posted it to write anything, because it's too short to write with for most people unless you post it. That's not convenient, and most of these other pens actually have it beat on that. Now, the fact that it is a twist cap is good. Okay, it's a screw-on cap. This pen has not dried out. That is, let's put that under the pros. I'm going to put no dry out, and just with this caveat, put a little bit of an asterisk there just so you remember. That's no dry out, not like never, ever, ever, but no dry out under normal use. You're not going to have to worry about, the next morning, is this pen going to be dry? No, it's not. You can't carry, as an everyday carry, a pen that dries out that quickly. And this is perfectly good for everyday carry use and regular use. So that's a good thing about the turns. However, it's a bit inconvenient. That's what I found in using this all this week, is that it's a bit inconvenient when it comes to how many turns just to write with the pen. And that has to be on the list as far as the turns. It's not just me being picky, because the pen is supposed to be about, it's a pocket pen. It's supposed to be about convenience. And so when there is something that makes it less than convenient, it's got to go on the con list, right? Otherwise, my only other question high on my list for a pocket pen would be durability of this finish. If you bought it specifically for the green color, in and out of the pocket, in and out of the pocket, is it going to show wear? I'm going to assume yes, it's going to show wear eventually. Now, you might like that. Some people pay a little bit extra on their Kaweco Sport to get a metal pen that already looks like somebody wore it out, right? So maybe that doesn't bother you. If you're somebody who wants to keep it in pristine condition, then, I would go for the brass pen, because, patina is part of its condition, and you don't even think about that. Otherwise, just be aware that these kinds of finishes, they're going to show wear over time. It probably is not too difficult to scratch, but I haven't had it long enough to get that first ding. And being this light and thin and aluminum, it can dent. So, be aware that that is possible. Be careful with it. But, there you go. All right. Thank you so much for all those likes, shares, and subscribes. And I look forward to seeing you in the comments. What do you think about the Liliput, or even some of these other pens that I had in the size comparison? Or what is your favorite, most convenient everyday carry pocket pen, and why? God bless you, and have a great week.